All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. We are here to talk to you a little bit about the RAISE grants that are available. My name is Ellie, and I am the acting program manager at GridMatrix. And I'm here with my friend and colleague, Kyle Pickett. He's our director of government affairs.
It's good to see you, everybody.
Yes. So just to begin and give you guys a little bit of a background about us, we are 11 full-time employees with 14 total engineers, as well as operational professionals. Together, we have over 100 years of experience, as well as 22 patents in both the software and hardware space. So the RAISE grant eligibility, we're really excited about this. It's a competitive federal funding structure through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which provides grants to both state, local, and tribal governments, DC and US territories, regional government entities, state chartered authorities, public authorities with a transportation focus, such as a port authority, multi-state consortiums, and transit agencies. So, albeit only surface transportation infrastructure is eligible for funding, surface infrastructure that's operated by groups such as port authorities are permitted, including as part of a larger project per se. Moving into the types of grants that are offered through RAISE, there are two. First one being capital grants. That consists of service transportation, infrastructure, capital construction, vehicle and equipment procurement, as well as projects that include a right-of-way acquisition. On the other hand, there's also planning grants that would go into the planning, preparation, and/or design of surface transportation infrastructure projects. Examples of this would be environmental analysis, equity analysis, community engagement, feasibility studies, cost-benefit analysis, and pre-construction activities. Diversity of coverage. Going a little more into how RAISE is structuring their grant, it is designed to spread the benefits of federal funding, being modal and geographic diversity are required by the program. And so some of the awards will go to urban environments while others will go to rural areas. I do also want to drive home that the point of RAISE will also give the opportunity for, if not many or every single state, to have the potential to win a grant. Because the DOT must allocate $35 million additionally to planning grants for areas of persistent poverty, as well as historically disadvantaged communities. So all areas, all different types of environments, and so on in all states. So for eligibility for the capital grant infrastructure, this would include roadways, bridges, and highways, public transportation, passenger and freight rail, tribal transportation projects, airport and port surface infrastructure, inland ports, aquatic species habitat protection upgrades, planning and pre-construction studies, and intermodal projects. And for the minimum and maximum sizes for both of these types of grants, the minimum project size for a capital project is $1 million in a rural community or $5 million in an urban community. And then for planning projects, there is no minimum award size. The maximum project size, however, depends on the source. $25 million for bipartisan infrastructure law, as well as $45 million fiscal year 2023 Appropriation Act should be considered.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Ellie. So delving a little deeper into the planning grants, the NOFO delineates a variety of planning grant cases, including the development of master plans, transportation corridors, and integrated economic development, zero-emission fleet development, planning for multimodal freight corridors, planning for zero-emissions good movement, port or regional port planning, and risk assessment and vulnerability planning ahead of natural disasters and emergencies. GridMatrix's software is a great fit in particular for planning grants. The company can provide users with congestion, emissions, safety, and signal performance data for their developments. This data is especially helpful for governments developing master plans, transportation corridors, and freight corridors. GridMatrix is also building out new novel software features all the time, and some of these features align exactly with the planning grant use cases. We're about to present on a project we've been developing with the DOT on transportation risk assessments and vulnerability planning, which is one of the noted planning grant applications. Similarly, GridMatrix has worked with port authorities on surface transportation projects and is able to provide data for developing plans. Grant applications will be judged on 8 criteria. Projects need to show they can improve the safety of infrastructure users. Projects need to improve the environment, typically through emission reduction or transportation mode shifts. Projects need to improve the affordability or livability of their communities. Projects need to improve mobility and community connectivity. Projects need to improve the economy with potential applications including new tourism, improved freight throughput, or other long-term economic growth models. Projects need to keep infrastructure in a state of good repair, which is to say they either show demonstrable improvement to or replacement of an existing piece of infrastructure, or the creation of new infrastructure with clear upkeep metrics. Projects need to partner with the local community, and projects need to demonstrate innovation in technology, financing, or project delivery. Of these criteria, the first four will receive priority during the senior review phase, and they're highlighted here on this slide. Each of these categories will be evaluated on whether goals are clear, direct, data-driven, and significant. Because data is being collected as part of planning grants operations and is not yet fully known, the data-driven category is more important for capital projects. However, Grid Matrix is well suited to provide capital projects with data for this data-driven requirement, either ahead of build phases or as measures of effectiveness. The DOT will then evaluate each of the 8 categories and provide a rating of high, medium, low, or non-responsive. High ratings mean that the category, such as sustainability, is a primary project purpose, while medium would indicate the benefits are ancillary. The 8 categories have subcategories highlighting specific DOT interests. Only one high subcategory per category is needed to score high in that category. Certain subcategories are only in the high category, while others are only in the medium category. Planning grants can be significantly less defined on their solutions than capital grants, but need to be more specific about their problems. As an example, some subcategories of the environment category are listed below. If any one of these subcategories is met by the proposed project, the project can score a high in that category. These include reducing transportation-related air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions in underserved communities, reducing vehicle miles traveled, specifically through modal shift or transit to active transportation, improving the resilience of at-risk infrastructure to withstand extreme weather events and natural disasters caused by climate change, and using the best available climate data sets and best practices. Several of these use cases, such as greenhouse gas emissions reduction and climate data integration, are served directly by Grid Matrix products. Once all of these categories are scored, the metrics will be converted into an overall recommendation. To be a highly recommended project, a proposal will need to score a high on at least 6 of the 8 merit criteria and have no criteria deemed non-responsive. Recommended projects will score between 1 and 5 highs with no more than 3 lows and no non-responsives. Acceptable projects will score a combination of highs and lows and non-responsives that don't fit into any other definitions. And then finally, unacceptable projects will have at least 3 non-responsive ratings. It's important to note that while projects should shoot to be as highly competitive as they can and as highly recommended as they can, the geographic distribution of funds means that the projects will not simply be awarded to the highest scoring projects as a rule. Projects with lower scores serve communities of interest, particularly those located in states or territories with few applications, or projects which score relatively high in either the urban or rural categories, could still be competitive when allocating funding. With regards to cost sharing, federal funding is limited to 80% of a program's cost in urban areas, which are not areas of persistent poverty or historically disadvantaged communities. This includes the combination of raised grant funding and other federal funding sources. There is no maximum share for federal funds on projects in APPs, HDCs, or rural areas. Now, projects can be larger than federal funding. There's simply no maximum federal share for these projects. It's also important to note that cost share is not a competitive factor. Simply put, request the funds you need. The application process takes some time, so it's best to begin preparing your applications now. Each government entity may submit up to 3 applications. To begin, register on sam.gov to receive a unique entity ID. Next, register on grants.gov before submitting your application. This can take up to 4 weeks, so register ASAP. Applications are due by 11:59 p.m. Eastern on February 28th, 2023 on grants.gov. Late proposals will not be accepted. The DOT offers several recommendations on how to keep your proposal competitive. And while most of them seem intuitive, it's worth having them all top of mind as you apply. I've broken them down to answer the perennial questions of what, when, why, and how. Applicants should clearly explain the problem and how your project solves the problem. This is the what of the application. The when is, of course, having a realistic timeline. Don't propose a timeline you can't meet or which has the funding expire before you've used it. The why is explaining the impact the project will have on a local, regional, or national level. Why should you in particular get the funding? And these impacts should be demonstrated through factors such as improved transportation safety, reliability, and affordability, outsized benefit to underserved communities, and a connection to climate change and racial equity. And finally, show how your project can make concrete gains through data. If you're interested in applying for a RAISE grant, we're happy to help in the best capacity we can. We're willing to extend our support either by adding capabilities to your project or by providing support with the grant process itself. This could be up to and including writing support, but is subject to local and federal procurement rules. To conclude, funding is available for your projects. GridMatrix is excited to help you take advantage of this excellent opportunity to invest in your infrastructure today. All right, thank you all for calling in.